Welcome to Backstage with Richard Ridge. Titanic the Musical is coming to the big screen. On November 4th and November 8th, Fathom Events will present a live capture of the breathtaking UK production. It will be screened at over 700 movie theaters nationwide. The film celebrates the 26th anniversary of the Broadway production and the 10th anniversary of the London premiere. The original Broadway production went on to win 5 Tony Awards, including Best Musical, and for the show's creators, Maury Yeston and Peter Stone. And my guest is the acclaimed and award-winning director of the UK production and the film. Please welcome Thom Southerland.
Hello. What an introduction. Thank you very much.
You are very welcome. First off, Thom, how are you and where are you?
I'm in my house. I'm in London, and I'm very well, thank you.
So how excited are you that your beautiful production of Titanic the Musical is now coming to the big screen?
Beyond my wildest dreams. To think that when we started this production more than 10 years ago now, that it would one day be on the sort of big screen and be in cinemas across America is unreal. That it's sort of really a dream come true about really sharing this American musical back with the US again. It's beyond my wildest dreams and expectations of what it was at the beginning.
Well, because of Fathom Events, your breathtaking production of Titanic is going to be seen at over 700 screens across the country on November 4th and November 8th. I mean, talk about what Fathom Events does and what this means with them making theater accessible to so many people.
It's incredible. And when the opportunity that for Fathom, that when they came and asked us if this was something that would be interested in, I immediately jumped at the opportunity and said yes. Throughout my career, I've always tried to take musicals and theatre to people that necessarily wouldn't have seen them and maybe do them in a different way and to explore them in ways which they're not used to, sort of taking a Broadway musical away from a Broadway stage and re-seeing it. And I think for Fathom to be sort of akin with that and doing the same thing with taking Broadway musicals and taking them out to people to see them, it is incredible. But the way in which they capture them too, to look at the inherent theatricality within it. And one of the things that I was saying at the very beginning is this is a stage show, it is not a movie. And the opportunity to have this captured again and to have cameras with the actors on stage and to really see this is going to be very much like it was in the original production back at Southwark Playhouse, when we were at very close quarters with the action. And throughout the creating of Titanic the Musical, we have always been trying to say that the audience come with us on this journey. And I think what better way to do that is to have the camera help us and to sort of embrace the musical. But it is still a musical. And I think that's what has been so beautifully captured in this recording of the show. I'm so pleased it's here, and I'm so pleased that it's been recorded and documented and can be shared with everyone. It was very humbling when I watched it. That's not mine. It was crazy to see it and to watch it. It was really great.
See, I think the same thing. I've already screened it. I had goosebumps from the second it started. I mean, and the nice thing is the way you capture this, it's actually, like you said, seeing a live musical on stage.
Yeah.
And offering this to people who may not have accessibility to get to, of course, not to the UK, but just get to a theater in general, a live musical. They can see this production as you presented it on stage, the way you captured it on camera.
Exactly. And I think if we can't get to you and you can't come to the theater, you can go to a movie theater and you can still have a theatrical experience. That was one of the things I was really, really specific about when we looked at capturing this, is to say, I don't want to do too many close-ups and too many sort of cutaways and do all that. It needs to be inherently theatrical. That is the basis of this production of this musical. And I think the way that Maury Yeston and Peter Stone created the music for the musical was to create a theatrical event rather than replicate what Titanic was. And I said, there is already a very famous movie of Titanic. We don't need to redo that movie. We need to capture the theatrical version of what Maury and Peter have created and this telling of the story. So I was delighted when I saw what they've done and how they've captured it.
So, how many days did it take to film? I mean, how many cameras? Talk about that part of the process.
It was filmed in 1 week in a theater in the UK. Several different takes. It was done over a period of 3 nights when there was a live audience that were there, and then there was also a day where we did some sort of cutaways and close-ups. But actually, in the final edit, when it all came together, a lot of that wasn't used because we kind of wanted to leave it to the cameras that were in the auditorium. I can't remember off the top of my head the amount of cameras that was there, but it was like entering an old Hollywood film studio when we walked in on the first day and saw the cranes and everything that were all in there to capture it. But yeah, it was quite a sight. But yeah, I think that it was filmed with only within a week. It was done within a week from the most recent UK tour.
Yeah. No, I think the number was 7 cameras, which is a big number to capture something in a theater. So when you walked in there, like you just started talking about that, I mean, it must have been thrilling for you to realize, the cameras are all around there, the live audience is there, and this whole beautiful production was being captured on film.
Yeah, it's a moment of pinching yourself when you walk in because this production was originally conceived in a 230 seat theater in off West End, and was an idea to sort of re-examine and re-explore this production of it and the original material. And to think that that show not only has gone from, I would say, from Tokyo to Toronto, it's taken me into many different languages of working with this show, but then to walk into a film studio almost and be capturing it forever, that brought its own little nerves as well. This is the one that people are going to see forever. So it's as each cast have done the show, it's always something that I've always wanted to adapt it around the cast that we have. It's never sort of set in stone. It's never been locked. It's always continually nurtured and developed as each cast has gone forward. So, but I was delighted that it's this cast that have sort of put it down onto film.
How exciting was it for the cast? Like when you told them this is going to be filmed and go, all across the United States on over 700 screens. I mean, how thrilled were they when you told them?
Excited, but I think pretty nervous about it. Is the way that this is the version of the show which will sort of go back to America, and people in the US will be watching. There are especially American characters that are within the show, which are played by Brits, which I think they found rather daunting that they were going to be sort of playing it and doing that for an American audience, which is yeah, scary for them to do it, but thrilled. I think what's wonderful about Titanic the musical that we find the cast become almost like a family, and they have such pride in the material and Maury Yeston's involvement each time we have a new cast, and he comes back and still talks with us and works through bits and pieces. And because we tailor it, I hope that they all become very proud of the material and the show that they're creating. So I think they're elated when they said that we're going to put this down on film and we're going to keep sharing it.
The cast is remarkable. Your creative team is remarkable. What you have put together for this production is absolutely stunning. You should be so proud.
Thank you, thank you. The original collaborators of what we did, I think are remarkable, and each and every single one of them has created what we have in that room. To work on the London Fringe as it was as the show started, the most important thing was the show, and I think it's so rare now actually to have that in mind. Even the actors, every single person in a very very small what used to be a car mechanic shop created the UK premiere of Titanic the musical. And we came out with, and everybody in that room had one aim, was to share how extraordinary Maury Yeston and Peter Stone's musical was, and to sort of defy logic that you can make a musical about the Titanic story.
Well, let's talk about, take me back to the beginning. Where did your love for Titanic the musical begin? And originally, what made you say, one day I want to direct this?
Yeah, sure. It sounds like a fairy tale, but it's completely true. My first trip to New York was in the early 2000s, and I can't remember the date at the top of it. We can work it out because I flew in and saw the very final performance of 42nd Street, at what used to be then the Ford Center for the Performing Arts on 42nd Street. And I flew in early, and the concierge at the hotel said, "You should go and see a show tonight, and you're in luck. You should go and see this one. It's the final performance, and the finale alone is worth the ticket price. So go and see it." So I did. In the lobby afterwards, in the little concession stands, there was like a shop that sold old Broadway memorabilia and things. And because the show was closing, everything in the shop was half price or less. And in the bottom corner in the basket, there was a box of souvenir brochures. And I flicked through them and I saw this souvenir brochure of Titanic the Musical. I was like, what? This is crazy. The images and the artwork, it's so operatic. It was on such a vast scale. It's like, how did this not come? The other ones that I picked up in there was that there was a Man of La Mancha in there, and there was like some other bits and pieces that I took, but also on the list. I said, I need to then cross the street and bought the record from Tower Records and went back to my hotel room and played it. And what I heard was not what I saw. It was kind of that they are two completely different things. I never thought that it would sound like that from the way that it looks. And then proceeded a sort of 10 years of badgering Maury Yeston just to say, please, can this arrive in the UK? How do I do it? How do we solve this? Let me please bring it to the UK, and to talk to him about a smaller version of the show, which I think initially Maury was. That's not the show that Maury wrote. Maury wrote an epic Broadway musical. I think the idea to do it in a very small theatre in London, I will thank him for his trust with his baby, which Titanic is, in the way that we sort of reconceived what Maury's musical was from its Broadway original.
Well, let's talk about this. Like I said, it's one of my all-time favorite musicals. I mean, what do you admire the most about Maury Yeston, his score, and Peter Stone's incredible book of how they created this?
I think the one that I've had the privilege of working on a couple of Maury's shows, and I think the one thing which is so unique about Maury's musicals is that he intentionally doesn't write one central main character. With the sort of the you could argue that yes, Nine is that, but the women arguably are the characters in Nine and are the energy in it. But if you think of Grand Hotel and Titanic, they are the main character is not necessarily visible on stage. The ensemble are the strongest unit in it. So what you have is this huge choral sort of cacophony. It's the most incredibly exciting thing to work with on stage. To then have that and to share stories so that every single person on stage is empowered in telling collectively a story, I think lends itself to the theatre so well. We go for a shared experience, and to be watching an experience which is also shared within a story, I think is so clever with the way that it does it. And he sort of defies logic. The best way, Maury would say, to sort of to show emotion is to sing, and is to transcend words and to come up with this stunning score which lifts you up and can transcend sort of naturalism and really and truly and utterly be swept away. But I think in Titanic, it's the way that Maury and Peter work together to tell a factual story, but sort of also a romantic story and a story of hope within what we know is sort of the greatest tragedy as well. He defies logic and proves that humanity can triumph, and you can use the Titanic story to also tell us the story of hope, dream, aspiration. The same way that Tevye the milkman goes out for hope, dreams, and aspiration, so does Kate McGowan, so does Mr. Ismay. He finds that commonality with musical theatre. I think he's a genius.
It's so interesting because we know what happened with Titanic, but what's so great about the musical is it's about the people.
Yeah, it's about the people, and he finds a human way into a story about the largest moving object in the world. It's the human story is what shines with us, and I think we understand. I think that one of my favorite lines in it is when Kate McGowan at the beginning sings, "Let all our children's children know that this day long ago we dreamt of them and came aboard this ship." That's us. That's us she's singing about. And I think we are involved. Somehow we know that these are our ancestors. We know, I think even more so for US audiences, these people were our ancestors. They came, they had such bravery, hope, and ambition that we are one with them. And I think that is such a stirring emotion. You forget the end of what happens to us. We just want to follow who these people are, whether it's, Alice and Edgar Bean or the Strausses, or, that I get wrapped up in the human emotion and the human story. And then the factual story of the captain and Ismay and Andrews is sort of its own drama in itself. It's kind of strange it's even true.
Yeah. Why do you think audiences, generation after generation, have fallen in love with this musical of Titanic?
I think the Titanic story in itself and the legend of Titanic and everything has so many aspects to the story that I think it sort of will always be here, whether it's the mystery of what happened or the elegance and extravagance of the boat, but also the daring and the press attention that it got. There were so many aspects of the Titanic story which are there. But I think the reason people have, I think, actually taken the musical to heart is because it is the essence of what sort of those great Broadway musicals can be, whether it's sort of in the sort of central premise and the message of sort of those Rodgers and Hammerstein musicals. We can be whoever we want to be and we can go and do whatever we want. Every single passenger on board that ship felt that when they docked it in Southampton. I think Maury and Peter found a subject so clever and so specific, but also has ramifications so deep. We feel so much for these characters, even though they're in such a specific situation. We feel that we are one with them, and I think that's how it's resonated from audiences in Chinese, in Japanese, in Germany, in Canada. I think it's a common humanity that sort of has brought us all together, not actually a specialist knowledge about the Titanic.
You had mentioned that Maury Yeston has come over and worked with you and worked with the casts on your productions of Titanic. What was that like? Having one-on-one with Maury.
So intimidating, because at the heart I'm a musical theatre fanboy. And I've listened to this music for so long, and to have Maury with us for the first production in Southwark, when he wasn't part of the rehearsal process. He was on the other end of the telephone. If I needed him, he said, "Call me anytime. You can ask me any questions," and we frequently did and went through it. But when he came to see it, I was insanely nervous. The original production was in a thrust, and I intentionally put Maury across one side, and then I was going to sit the other side, and I would just watch him the entire show just to check what was going on. And as we walked in, he said, "No, we're sitting together." And he kind of pulled me, and we sat next to each other. And there's certain moments when he was watching it that he was sort of leaning forward, and there's moments looking back. And I'm terrible at reading people, and I kind of got very, very nervous. And at the end, I sort of dodged him in the interval. I didn't really want to say anything because I was desperately nervous. But at the end, he came over and he said something to me which I'll never forget. He said, "Tom, I didn't write that show." And I said, "Oh, no, Maury, I haven't changed anything." He said, no, you don't understand. He said, "I never thought that it would be that." I think he said, "I wrote a big Broadway show." He said, "I never thought that it would be reconceived or conceived like this." And I think that was an honest comment that he came out with, but sort of the one thing that I really held on to, that we could reinterpret something from him without changing a dot or a word. That's something that he was equally as pleased with, but never could have imagined it would have turned into. So, and that's down to the cast and the rest of the creative team who put that original production together.
So for you, what was it like revisiting Titanic again for this for this new production that was eventually filmed by Fathom? What was it like revisiting it again for you?
Each time I go back to Titanic, it's I'm sort of a director that doesn't really plan very much and go and work in the room with the actors and with the designers and the rest of the creative team to come together. So the first time I ever had to return to Titanic, I was nervous because we sort of said we didn't know what we did, but we did it. So and I don't want to replicate. I think I don't want to just say stand here, you move here, because actually this is a human story and the heart has to remain. And I think by looking at it like a jigsaw puzzle or a map, we won't get that. It will be lost somehow. So I I was nervous, but I think working with these incredible characters that Peter Stone mapped out, working out how they all interlock with each other and how they share the story, I think as long as we don't just replicate it, that we each charge the actors when we're working with them and make sure they understand their role and how they fit into the bigger picture and the method of storytelling that Maury and Peter have chosen at each moment. I think that's where we find the heart of it. But yes, there are confusing things like how do we do the lifeboat scene? How do we do that? Which always takes about 3 days in a rehearsal room to work out where everyone's going. But at each point, this time we put the 10th anniversary together. I have a recording, a very sort of desk recording from the original production at Southwark. And I was so shocked at how much actually it's changed. And it's become a much sort of bigger show than what was on the size of a postage stamp at Southwark Playhouse. These moments that people have really held on to, we never thought that would be that when we first created them in Southwark.
Yeah. Take me back to the beginning. Was there a defining moment for you when you said, I want to be a director. I want to direct classic musicals and be a part of this world?
I was born in a place called Walsall in North Birmingham in the UK, a very industrial part of the UK, and not really from a traditional theatrical family at all. My grandmother wanted to be an opera singer, but she was a very wonderful teacher instead and was a seamstress. But she used to take me to the Hippodrome, which is the big theatre in Birmingham. I remember going to see, I would only be about 8 or 9. I went to go and see Rodgers and Hammerstein's Carousel, which she always used to sing around the house. And I remember she used to sit with her at the front of the dress circle on a Saturday matinee. And at the end of it, she said, what do you think? And I said, oh, it was really good. And she said, the music is beautiful. I didn't quite like the set, and maybe those performers were not as good. But at that young age, she undid the sort of theatrical creation for me. I think when you're young, you don't understand that there's another way to do it. And that there was a different set we could have had. And we could have slightly replayed that moment, or, and she completely unlocked me. It was that singer didn't quite play Julie as much as, and she completely unlocked that for me because she was a singer herself. And I thought, oh, wow, I'd quite like to play. I wanted to be an actor. I didn't think I was a very good actor. I was always watching myself and watching others. So I thought, why not try and be a director? So I think that's what took me. But I love musicals. I'm sat watching a musical or classic plays. And I come to New York and around the world to go and see them. And it's now my constant treat to be working on such incredible pieces like Titanic.
Yeah. What was your first big musical that you directed?
So I did a production of Annie Get Your Gun at the Union Theatre in Southwark. And I did it with like 6 people and acting musicians and hardly anything. And I remember the Berlin Sisters then coming to see it at this theatre less than, more than just under 50 seats in the original Dirty Archway. And when one of the sisters arrived, she says, the last time I saw this was in the Marquis Theatre on Broadway and the bar was bigger than this. It was completely transformative for them. And I think that she watched it. And I remember talking to them afterwards and saying, she said, why do you love this music? You're 21 years old. Why do you like this music? And I said, you're kidding? This is the best music ever. But I think it was that. And then I worked on things like Pajama Game and Divorce Me Darling and Grand Hotel. But these sort of musicals which have not had huge productions here in the UK, and maybe could be conceived and seen in a slightly different light. but you know, I've enjoyed working on many of them. Things like Ragtime, for instance, when we did that around the last American elections, it was really quite exciting to see that piece as an actor muso piece played against the real drama that was actually happening in America. But strangely, I'm drawn towards American shows, but yet we're yet to have one reach back in America. So it's beautiful that Titanic now is coming back almost home. She's sailing across the Atlantic
I love
for
that.
the first time.
Is there a classic dream American musical that's still in your canon that should be like, yeah, I think I want to tackle that maybe in my near future?
There's too many. There's too many. I mean, I have a penchant for the slightly unusual one. So I've done one production of Rodgers and Hammerstein's Me and Juliet before, but I think that needs to be. It's the only one that still has not had a proper recording of it done. It is Rodgers and Hammerstein's musical comedy. There is some fantastic pieces and numbers within it. They're almost pastiching themselves, and I think it's if ever there could be a time we could find that. But I'm a great Jerry Herman lover as well, and I've tackled Mac and Mabel several times, and I think I quite like to another go soon.
That's a great list. And like I said, I would love to have seen your sixth character, Annie Get Your Gun. I would have been right there with the Berlin sisters,
It was a
having the
treat.
time of my life.
It was a treat. Yeah.
So finally, what do you hope audiences will take away after seeing Titanic the musical on the big screen?
I'd like to think that they've been and had a theatrical experience actually, and sort of appreciated. I think what is appreciate is maybe the wrong word, but enjoyed what I think is one of the greatest classic yet contemporary pieces of musical theatre. It's timeless, and I think it also goes to prove that you can tell any story beautifully in a musical as long as you have the right ingredients. And I think it is wildly entertaining. It's enjoyable, funny in places too, tragic but yet hopeful. I think it does everything that a good musical should be able to do in spades. I think it's. I hope people take it to heart, and it inspires them to come and see more live streaming from stage shows, but also visit your local theatre and maybe head to other theatres across the world.
Well, like I said, I adored your production. As you know, Titanic's one of my favorite shows. It sits in my house. Once again, Titanic the Musical will be screened in over 700 movie theaters nationwide on November 4th and November 8th, thanks to Fathom Events. You will feel like you have a front row seat to this breathtaking musical, which has been directed by my guest, Thom Southerland, to celebrate the 10th anniversary of its London premiere, where it won sweeping critical acclaim across the board. For tickets and a list of theaters are available at Fathom Events. Thom, thank you so much for dropping by and spending time with me today at Broadway
My,
World.
my pleasure. Absolutely my pleasure.